May I come in, sir? Good afternoon, sirs. Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you.
Radhika, you are from Bareilly.
Yes.
Your center was Trivandrum.
Yes, sir.
How it is?
So my mother is based out of Trivandrum, and for writing the UPSC mains, I had the option of either Delhi or Trivandrum. I wanted to be closer to a place where I can commute from easily. Trivandrum offers me that advantage.
She's doing some business there?
Yes, sir. She's into automotive, sir. My stepfather's a Malayali, so she shunts between UP and Kerala.
You studied from Kamala Nehru College.
Yes.
And you have done MSc from and
Yes, sir.
presently in postal service.
Yes, sir. I've just finished my training.
Just finished. It's 2-year course.
2 years, yes.
Now posted there.
As SSP quota. I'll join after my interview. Yes, sir.
That's an independent post. It's an independent post or
Independent.
independent? After 2 years, you get independent post.
Yes, sir.
Being in junior scale.
Yes, sir. Junior time scale, we start as senior superintendent.
Just tell me, Companies Act. There was 1956 Act and new Act.
Yes.
What are the major differences?
Sir, if I recall correctly, sir, one was they had made an independent, a clause for independent directors. One independent director has to be there on the board, and also inclusion of a female director, sir. Then, other than that, sir, with regards to CSR, that is also covered under the Companies Act. And recently, the government has clarified that the CSR funding cannot be used, which was done in the last fiscal year, cannot be used for the next 3 years.
One-man company. There's so many. Whether all that is totally repealed or some provisions are still applicable of 1956 Act.
I think the broad act is there, but certain provisions would be there, sir.
Ramayana, Mahabharata, you know. Any character which was incarnation of one, which is older one, Ramayana or Mahabharata?
So, no idea. I can hazard a guess, sir. Mahabharata?
Ramayana was older. Any character of Ramayana incarnation in Mahabharata?
No, Ram was also an avatar of Krishna, and Krishna is also an avatar of, I think, Lord Vishnu.
Any other?
I do not know, sir.
Hanuman, Bhim.
Okay.
You would have read in paper recently this New Zealand. Their teams are named after colors.
No, sir.
All whites, all blacks, black caps.
I do not have any knowledge about that, sir.
Which are major killer diseases in India?
Major killer disease. Sir, TB, we still have like a very high TB burden, the largest in the world. Then...
in India, largest.
Yes, sir.
Or cardio in India.
So other than that, we have the CVDs, the NCDs, which comprise of diseases relating to the heart, relating to obesity, lifestyle diseases.
Middle class. And in middle class also we say upper middle class, lower middle class. What does it mean?
So it's just a segmentation to say it's slightly like if I were to give with the example of myself. So probably those who have certain steady income, who are not at a very great risk of sliding down to the lower income from the middle class, would be categorized as upper middle class, and those who are still on that fine line will come under middle, lower class. Thank you, sir.
What about the learnings from training apart from your technical subjects?
So, lots. So, in terms of my learnings, the biggest learning for me was the importance of customer centricity. That is something that I feel the post offices are also lacking in. And if we don't remedy that, if we don't reach out to our customers.
Post offices are lacking customers.
So we are a little lax in meeting their needs. one, we don't, from first-hand experience, we don't answer our phones. We are.
My personal experience, I never lost a postcard, or my postcard never got undelivered in the history of even couriers. There are problems, but postcards or postal department, I always keep them in high esteem. How do you say they are not customer centric?
Sir, there are issues. Yes, you have been lucky, sir, and a lot of people from. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend this, but sir, looking at the reality now, I do not know when was the last time you sent a postcard. Postcard has come
That was a good observation. I don't know when you sent last postcard.
Yes.
So abstraction has reduced, but for unaccountable mail, I cannot be as confident as you are. So I'm seeing it. I've seen it in the field. I have seen several complaints coming that it's delayed. We don't even get our unaccountable mail. Accountable mail, however, I would say products like Speed Post, Registered Post, they are very good in terms of speed, in terms of economic cost.
Good. So trace the postal services before advent of courier companies and after the advent of courier companies.
So, sir, before courier companies came in, we had a monopoly, and all the mail was channeled through us. A lot of times, I mean, since that was the only option, I can't say they were the most efficient, but since that was the only option, there was nothing else we could diversify to. Now, sir, it's a very competitive market, at least in terms of mail. Post offices are doing multiple things, but if I were to compare it to the courier company, in terms of speed, in terms of reliability, and in terms of economy, I would say we still are better than the courier companies. So it has changed, and we also need to have this outreach with our customers. We need to advertise, publicize. So these kind of things were not focused on earlier. Also, the look and feel factor has to be taken into account. It requires some focus.
Okay, economics. So the theory says the price versus demand. What is the usual theory?
Price versus demand. So the law of inverse proportion, the law of demand says that as price rises, quantity demanded falls, ceteris paribus, that is keeping other things equal.
A situation where demand increases and price increases.
So they are inferior goods, wherein first inferior good is a good wherein when the income of an individual rises, he or she reduces the quantity demanded of that product. Now, given goods are inferior goods, and they have an inverse relationship with the price. So when the price of a commodity rises, the quantity demanded also rises. This is a very rare occurrence, and it has its origins to the Irish potato famine. And we see a lot less of these, but in theoretical terms, that's a given good, sir.
What is Edgeworth box?
Edgeworth box is a concept from general equilibrium, wherein we are representing, if I may simplify, sir, in terms of if I'm looking at the allocation between two factors of production, so say land and capital, I will place them in an Edgeworth box and derive my optimal points from there.
What is Engel curve?
Engel curve, sir, shows the relationship between quantity, I think between income and quantity demanded, sir. I may be wrong on this one.
Expenditure on food, primary costs. Good. Okay, last question on economics. We'll move to some other area. There is I am forgetting the name. Please help me in that one. In placing your shop, some beach candy shop example you study. What is that? One fellow will keep the shop here, The other fellow will keep the shop there, and then they will find.
Yes, yes. This is something in microeconomics. With so I can't recall it, but I think I have covered this in my undergraduate degree.
That is okay. I also forgot this thing. So finally, they move towards
Yeah.
market, right?
On a beach, then you've put up 2 stalls.
In politics, how it reflects this experiment.
Probably the middle ground, sir. We start on extremes and come towards the center.
You can cite an example.
So, if I were to take the example from our current parliament session, what it could have been, instead of fixating over 2 particular issues, both one side I can put the opposition and one side I can put the ruling parties. If we come together, have
Positions. The US politics, both the parties are almost equal policies only. Just right side of the center and the left side of the center is the only thing. Similarly, Indian politics, BJP and Congress, there is no much difference. Even though they started with extreme positions, they slowly move towards center. That is the one thing.
Postal Service Department. Next, say 10 years.
Ma'am, in order to have a future and that to a sustainable future,
Whatever the current situation is, based on that, how do you see next 10 years, after next 10 years?
ma'am, us diversifying. Our focus from the core operations, which is mail-related products, has already started moving and has to further move towards keeping ourselves relevant through financial inclusion, through providing a platform for service delivery, customer service delivery at doorsteps of people. And also, with regards to our core area, we need to we shall be capitalizing on the e-commerce market, not in the metro cities, but in the smaller tier towns and also the rural.
Is this going to happen? That's what I'm.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We are taking conscious, deliberate efforts to move towards that.
And now coming to UP. Firstly, what do you understand by women empowerment?
Ma'am, women empowerment is a scenario wherein a female, has the capabilities and the opportunities to excel. Now, this could be in different aspects. It could be participation in society, participation in the economic field, participation in politics, whatsoever. The overall development of a woman.
So when we talk about women empowerment, how do you see the status of women in UP?
Not ideal, but ma'am, I have had the experience of going to 3 states in the recent past. I worked in Tamil Nadu for 3 months, and then I worked in UP. I came back to UP for one of my attachments, and then again, I just had a very short stint in Jaipur. So when I went back to UP from Tamil Nadu, I realized that, again, not so many females there in Tamil Nadu. I saw them not only just engaged in office work, in clerical work, but also in manual work, which was quite astounding for me. Then, however, UP, at least some female representation. I went to Rajasthan very recently, and I see that that it's a far more conservative society than probably even UP. So I would say it's not the best. There is so much that we have to do in UP for women empowerment, but it's not very bad.
So if you have to focus on one area, women empowerment, to begin with, what would be that one area and how would you address that?
One area to focus on women empowerment for me would be in the economic sphere. I feel once a woman is financially independent or secure in terms of having enough to earn for herself, as well as maybe in case she has dependents to fend for the family, then there is no stopping a woman.
Especially, UP, where you know the culture very well. Most of the places are like where women are where they need support, they live in villages, it's a conservative society, then how would you address that?
Ma'am, with regards to the women in villages, it is a conservative society. So there we need to have an outreach with the women and also convince their family members regarding one, that why there is a need for women to come out. Second, because also assure them of the safety aspect. With regards, ma'am, for that, agriculture has been traditionally the forte, but I would say we need to shift them from agriculture to engage them in cottage industries or even.
But where is the cottage industry? So in the villages.
And that's what we need to encourage.
Encourage who? People or industry or the government to set up industry?
Ma'am, people, industry as well as the government. It's a. Say I come from the Navy. So in my particular area, in my district, we have we excel. I mean, we specialize in the production of zari products. So engage the government, engage the female artisans to come together. They can even form a self-help group.
So even if they form SHGs, even if they make it, where would they sell it?
Ma'am, there we have to explore the idea of markets. It is actually a very prime market. A lot of people want traditional clothes, traditional items, and even in terms of pricing, they do fetch a remunerative price. But that market linkage is missing. So we need to focus on that, ma'am.
Okay. Now, coming to Afghanistan and India. So, what future do you see with regards to India and Afghanistan?
Ma'am, I would still reserve my my ideology, because not my ideology, but my views, because right now we just need to wait and watch, see what Taliban, which is going to form a government now, comes out with. So it might seem like we're not engaging with them, but right now the best policy would be to wait and watch and then decide what the future course would be.
One last question. What are China's economic interests in Afghanistan?
Ma'am, economically speaking, China would be interested in expanding BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, in Afghanistan too, especially that Wakhan corridor, which has a geographical connectivity to China itself.
Thank you.
Kerala.
So about 2.5 years during my preparation mainly.
So how is the economy of Kerala different from the economy of UP?
So economy of Kerala before the pandemic, that is, was primarily driven by remittances from outside. It also has a huge element of tourism, and it actively promotes that as a revenue earner. Whereas if I look at the economy of UP, that would be more industry-based, more agriculture-based, and more domestically.
So if you were to take some things or practices from UP to Kerala and Kerala to UP, what would it be?
So Kerala to UP first.
Kerala to UP.
Okay. So, sir, I just mentioned, sir, tourism is being promoted actively, not just within the state or within the country, but also abroad. And which is, I mean, they invest in the infrastructure, they invest in marketing, and they also invest in ensuring that people are safe there. So I think UP can learn those things from that. With regards to taking inputs from UP to Kerala, I would say.
Sorry for interruption. Whenever foreigners come to India's on tourism point of view, what is the symbol then?
It's true, sir. But Taj Mahal is not the only highlight of UP. And so we can do a lot more. There is a tremendous potential. Yes, sir. UP to Kerala, sir. I feel labor in Kerala is slightly more, I don't mean to say aggressive, but slightly more rigid.
Slightly or
Slightly. It's good in a way because they also assert their rights.
What do you understand by a black swan event?
Once in a lifetime. So say COVID, sir, right now.
Will be considered as a black swan event?
So if my understanding of a black swan event is right, that some event which has a very low likelihood of happening, then yes, sir.
Many countries have transformed their postal sector well. Can you take some examples and see how they have transformed and what lessons we can learn from that?
So, in terms of that, the transformation for me, significant transformation would be in Japan, sir. They have diversified to financial services, and a lot of ideas that we get are from that, from Japan. So diversification to financial sector.
So you talked about e-commerce and postal sector. What are we doing to facilitate this?
So we have come up with two projects. One is a parcel network optimization project, and one is a mail optimization network project. Now, these have standardized our procedures, our equipment. We set up some special e-commerce centers. One is right here in Delhi under the Safdarjung flyover. And we're also bringing in rapid technology like real-time tracking, which e-commerce players expect, has also been brought in, sir. However, there is one drawback that we have, which is that we are still unable to provide an estimated date of delivery. Like if we order from Amazon.
So if you have real-time tracking, what is the difficulty in getting estimated time?
We've been unable to map all the data that we've got collated and then actually predict. So this is something which we have lacked, but a lot of our officers, my batchmates, we're all very, very interested in getting this also.
How is Amazon supply chain different from the postal department supply chain?
So I have limited knowledge in this because, unfortunately, because of COVID.
Amazon will be considered as the upper limit of supply chain management.
Yes, sir. But sir, I'll be honest, I don't have field experience there. Because of COVID, we haven't been allowed to go and look at their facilities. But two of our probationers who were attached to the Delhi Circle, they went and they said that the sorting pattern is very different. They have warehouses in major hubs, and they ask an operator to sort only for, say, 4 destinations. Whereas in our case, in postal service, a particular sorting assistant would be sorting for about 45 locations. So this is something that...
But the postal department is highly staffed.
Yes.
It is overstaffed. Maybe per ratio staff compared to Amazon would be lesser.
Yes, sir. But sir, even our vacancy levels have gone up. So I won't say we are overstaffed. Yes, we have more staff than Amazon, and Amazon also leverages technology. We are leveraging machines in Delhi, in Chennai, and Kolkata and Bombay. But the other places, we are not.
Are you familiar with the concept of smart warehouses? Smart warehousing. No. Right.
Is it where the ports move?
Yes.
I've seen it in the case of China Post.
You've worked in both private sector and you've been trained under government sector. What is the major difference that you see?
So, private sector is a little less rule bound and things move a lot faster. And because we don't have a lot of layers of clearances, we're reporting directly to certain boss and they have autonomy and we're not bound by things. So work happens at a faster pace.
Other differences, any other differences?
So it's a very different setting. So usually in terms of the atmosphere, it's, like they say, a bureaucratic atmosphere. So maybe the offices are not like you find in private sector. You don't have a lot of social working. There is still hierarchy.
You seem unhappy about the work conditions in the government sector.
No, sir. Actually, I would prefer if we all work together in workspaces and we didn't have these hierarchies saying that, okay, every time you come in, wait for the PA and then wait.
What are you reading in non-fiction? What are you reading? You have not mentioned fiction or non-fiction.
So currently nothing because I'm preparing for the
Last
interview.
book you have read.
So it was a book on Indian dogs by Theodore Bhaskaran.
Indian dogs.
Indian dog breeds. So I happen to be a dog aficionado, and my family and I, we have always kept a lot of pets. But since the past few years, we've taken an interest in getting the indigenous breeds. So we now have a Kombe and we now have a Rampur Hound. These breeds are being lost because breeds such as Labradors, Alsatians, Ashans, they become more popular. So it was a
Okay,
book on that
Radhika,
side.
your interview is over.